I'm excited about today's class. I'm going to learn with you a number of things. For those that are new to Gemara, or unfamiliar with this, it's exciting to learn some of the of today's topic, which are famous parts of all Daf Gemara, all Masechtas Gemara are included in these ideas. For example, we're going to learn about Rabbi Shmuel Omer. As Agave for sure knows, we start off with B'Shleisha Semidus with 13 midos. The Torah Nedrashas, the Torah is learned. Klalu Pratu Klal. What does it mean, Klalu Pratu Klal? And we're going to learn the famous machlokes between how we study Gemara, how we study Chumash. Do we learn at Klalu Pratu Klal or Ribui Miyut Ribui? That's going to be a discussion in today's Gemara. Why don't we get started? And we'll see inside. I'm just sharing with you some of we'll learn about Tana Vashir. What does it mean that they might have left over something? And then what does it mean? Then we analyze to see my shear, the high shear. That we're going to learn in today's Gemara. So you'll learn some basics in general, in understanding and how we learn Gemara. So that's it. And we'll learn some sukkim. And again, our general topic is what's our general topic is about the mayim, the water of the Sotah water. And we asked, if you remember, we left off, and we have to go back to a two brises we left off discussing an interesting question. What was the question we left off? Talking about the Sotah. In the Sotah water, we put dirt, earth from the karka of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. We put in some of that dirt, making the concoction that will tell us if the woman is a Sotah or not. Will be the litmus test to see if she's saying the truth, if that potion will affect her or not. And we said, what do you do? If you remember the last title we had in the Gemara, the last question we had was, what do you do if you don't have enough earth? You don't start digging with shovels. You're not allowed to dig with shovels, deep holes inside the Mishkan. So what do you do? So that was the question we stayed with. So we had two opinions. We brought two brises. I don't know if I explained it clear. I don't know if I understood it fully, but now just to go over, what are the two brises? One brisa said you take the earth from outside the Mishkan and you put it inside the Mishkan onto the floor, and that will qualify it as being considered now the Mishkan floor earth. And now you use that earth that's been sitting on the floor, you retake it again and you put it inside the potion, and now it's considered like you have earth from the Mishkan floor. And the other opinion is no, as soon as you, the second brisa learns, as soon as that earth comes into the Mishkan without touching the floor, it's right away qualified as Mishkan, as the correct earth, and that earth put into the potion cup. So it's two brises that explain doesn't need to actually sit on the floor, become part of the floor, or it can just by entering the Mishkan become considered Mishkan earth, create enough to create the potion that is needed to create the Sotah water. And we explained the other two, I don't want to get into it, explain the other two brises learned that the point of Karka HaMishkan, whatever, meant either that you could include it also in the Beis Hamikdash, dirt, of course, would be counted. Two, we ended up learning that we don't have to go back to the whole thing, and so on, was the interesting question we had in the previous week. But now let's move on. It's somewhat connected to those two ways of learning. You'll see in a minute, perhaps we'll bring it up. Let's go. Yibayilahu, they asked the question. Let's ask, I'm pointing to it now here, you can follow along with the Gemara. Yibayilahu, they asked the question. Okay. Is not today can I take from the earth of the Mishkan, but what do you do if you don't have dirt? Can you use ashes? Is ashes and dirt interchangeable? That's the first question we're going to raise in our Gemara today. Does that count? Can I put ashes? It's similar to dirt. It's ashes. Can I throw that in the potion of the for the site or not? Ein sham offer. So offer with the ayin is dirt. Okay, Ein sham offer. What happens if there's no dirt there? Mahu. What is the halacha? Sheyitain efer. Can I put the ashes? I always had a hard time in yeshiva between which one is dirt and which one is ashes. But just so we know, offer with the ayin is dirt, and Afer with the aleph is ashes, okay? Afer with an aleph is ashes, Afer with an ayin is dirt. So the Torah says, put dirt from the Mishkan floor into the Sotah water. So the Gemara is asking in other cases, can ashes count as dirt? Is ashes considered dirt, that it's considered to be considered dirt, and therefore you could use it in the Sotah water? So you leave it, the Beis Shammai, And there's always often a dispute between the two famous scholars, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. Loi to boilach, you don't have this question if you can supplement the Sotah water with ashes. You don't have this question. The Amri, because we know elsewhere that Beis Shammai holds no across the board. Loi Metzina, we do not find in Torah anywhere. We disagree with this idea that Afer, that ashes, Shakari offer is called dirt. No, this is already a discussion they had elsewhere. And Beis Shammai already laid down the rule that we don't find anywhere else that ashes is called dirt. And therefore, according to the school of Beis Shammai, this is already a solved case. You don't have this question. Kiti Bailach. When do you have this question? Who, according to who, can you analyze and ask this question? Oh, I leave the Beis Hillel, according to the yeshiva of Beis Hillel, the opinion of Beis Hillel. The Amri that they do say that Matzinu we can find that Efer Shakari offer that the words ashes and dirt are interchangeable. That it is interchangeable with each other. Okay. Where do we see and where is it? What do we see? Where do we see that it is interchangeable with each other? So the afagav, the ikri afar, even though so what do we say over here? So that's where your question is. According to Beis Shammai, ask no question. According to Beis Hillel, that he does find that you could have interchangeable ashes and earth. What's the halacha here? What will the rule be in our case? Will we allow the ashes to be interchangeable with dirt or not? Afagav, do we say the ikri afar that ashes can be called afar, can be called dirt, right? That you are saying it is interchangeable. Hacha, but here, the karka hamishkan ksiv, the Torah does say clearly, take the dirt out of the earth, the dirt of the Mishkan, and therefore not okay here, ashes. It was specific in creating the potion. It said the dirt has to come out of the earth, the dirt of the Mishkan, the ground of the Mishkan. So here we wouldn't allow it to be interchangeable. Other cases, perhaps Beis Hillel, you're okay with ashes being interchangeable with earth, but here in the potion making it says the earth of the Mishkan, and therefore no ashes acceptable. Do we say hi bekarka hamishkan when the Torah by the potion of the Sotah says with the karka hamishkan, with the earth of the Mishkan, the Torah says that. You know why it says earth? It doesn't mean specifically earth. Likidisi ben Yehuda, to either bring what our earlier one of the two brises said, Isi ben Yehuda or Isi ben Menachem. What those two guys said, those two rabbis said, why the Torah specifically said Karka Hamishkan. He said Karka Hamishkan to tell me that any temple, even the Beis Hamikdash, will count as its earth. That's why the Torah says the earth of the Mishkan, not because it has to be earth. It's telling you any of these, either the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash, it is qualified to use their ground. That's why it said Karka HaMishkan, or because Isi ben Menachem said that I think as soon as it enters the ear of the Mishkan, it's okay. I'm sorry that he cannot bring it from his house, whatever. But we learned the Karka Mishkan from something else. Huda Asi is what it's coming for, which is the previous brisa. But the fact is, the bottom line is, according to him, you could use ashes. According to Beis Hillel, you could. Our question is the word earth of the Mishkan telling me it has to be the earth of the Mishkan and earth specifically and not ashes? Or is ashes perhaps okay? Maybe you could bring ashes in, you could put ashes on the floor, or just by the ashes entering the Mishkan, it would already be qualified. So we don't know what the answer is. According to Beis Shammai, we know that for sure it will not count. But according to Beis Hillel, who the halacha is like, can we also say that ashes can be used instead of dirt? So that's the question that the Gemara starts off with. Good question. Do we say that ashes is considered dirt, or do we not say that ashes is considered dirt? Giving you the premise for the question, do I say when the verse in the Torah said it should come from the earth of the Mishkan, and did it mean specifically the earth of the Mishkan, or does the earth of the Mishkan come to tell me other details, and ashes should be allowed? So Gemara says, well, he's going to bring a whole new topic up to answer this question, an interesting topic. And to analyze this question, we're going to bring today's Gemara, all different Gemaras and ideas from different places and different concepts that are good in general to understand how Gemara works in general. So he's going to say, well, and this is the point he wants to make. If you're telling me that ashes is allowed, and the Torah says you should use earth. So in other words, you're telling me the Torah says, look in the verse, the literal verse meaning, and it says take earth to the Mishkan, and you're saying no, it doesn't need to be earth. Even ashes is allowed. You basically would be saying that the Torah wrote something that it needs to be earth, and you're okay with saying that ashes is also okay, kind of like even saying what the Torah said, it's not specific, and saying that other things are okay. If that's the case, we have a famous statement that from a Mishnah that there are 3 cases in the Torah where the Torah says one thing, and halacha l'Moshe Sinai means the oral tradition passed down from Moses. So Moshe gives us the Torah and also passed down many things from the oral tradition, which Moses himself also passed down, but passed it down orally, many things like the color of tefillin and so on. But there's not many cases where what Moshe said contradicts what it actually says in the Torah. And then there's a famous Mishnah that says, well, there are 3 cases in Torah where there are cases where the Torah says something and the oral tradition explains, but doesn't just explain as in many cases, but actually the explanation contradicts what it says in the Torah. And would you include our case today, Sotah, where it says earth and nothing else, seemingly that only earth is okay, and you want to say ashes is okay too? So he's going to bring you Tashma, come and learn. The Amr Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yochanan says, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel, and the famous scholar Rabbi Shmuel, who, by the way, is the author of, and remember this is important to know, he's the author of what we say the 13 principles of the Torah Zorim, which what we start before Shachris, we say the Torah Zorim with 13 general rules, right? So this Rabbi Shmuel says, the same Rabbi Shmuel says, that B'shleishim Mekarbis makes another list and says in 3 places, halacha, which means halacha l'Moshe Sinai. My friends who are beginner learning Gemara from the starting to learn Gemara, it means a halacha, a rule from Moshe from Sinai, which means oral tradition passed down. Not just the rabbis figured something out, but oral tradition was passed down that this is the halacha. We find 3 cases. This is what he's saying here in the Mishnah. Three cases that oikeves, it uproots mikra, the verse, the actual pasuk, it uproots the verse. There are 3 cases which the oral tradition uproots what it seems to say, the simple meaning of the verse. What are the 3? He's going to tell you the 3, right? We're going to discuss a lot of different stuff today. First case is the Torah says, ba'afar, in earth, ba'halacha, and the oral tradition is b'chol davar, with anything. Now this afar, I'm sorry, it's not talking about the earth of our case. It's talking about a rule with those who went with us Erev Yom Kippur to Lakewood this year, right? Go with us every year, or people who go to Kaparas know there's a special mitzvah we do there that we take after we shach the chicken, we throw it in those cones, and we take earth. They have like sand or earth on the ground, and we throw the cover of the chicken that went on the floor, and we make a bracha, a kisudam ba'afar, on covering blood with earth. So the Torah says, ba'afar, you should cover it with earth. The halacha, but the oral tradition passed down from Moshe is b'chol davar, that anything that can be used to grow plants. Like Rashi gives a few examples of this, even if it's not earth. That, for example, I don't know, crushed earthenware and different kinds of things are also kosher for covering the blood. So that's case number 1 of things where the Torah says earth, and it says no. In other words, if you just read the Torah earth, which means crushed earthenware or other things that plants could grow from, no good. But the halacha says, the oral tradition says, halacha l'Moshe Sinai, the oral tradition, it means, comes and says, no, other things are good too, even though Torah doesn't seem to say it's good. HaTorah, case number 2, bitsar, that you should shave with a razor, and that's talking about, about a Nazir, about a Nazirite, that you should cut his hair. With a razor, the Nazirite, after he finishes Nazirite period, you shave his hair with a razor. The Torah law says, nah, it doesn't have to be a razor. anything, a scissors, anything could be used to cut the hair. So the Torah seems to say only a razor is good, and the oral tradition says no. Even though the Torah said razor, really you could use anything. So another case where it uprooted what was a simple interpretation of halacha. And the third case is Torah Amra Sefer. The Torah says when you write a get for a woman, and it's very specific with the details, and the Torah said it has to be done with Sefer, with parchment. You have to write the get as we do today on a parchment, the halacha, but the halacha is, the oral tradition is, b'chol davar, with anything, even on a leaf, as long as it's not attached to the ground, whatever, so on. Many other things besides parchment could be used in order to write a get for a woman. Hey, but the Torah just said you can write it with anything. And here he's saying, I'm sorry, the Torah says you have to write it with parchment. Sefer means parchment. And now you're telling me you could do anything with it. So three brings the Mishnah where he says there's three cases that the Torah says one thing and we're adding to it. Now, okay, very nice, interesting Mishnah. But V'im Isa, and if you hold, like you just said, why don't you just tell me that there's a fourth case? And the fourth case is our case, our Sotah case, that the Torah says earth, and we're saying no. The Beis Hillel would hold that even ashes is okay too. Lechshev nami, count, make a cheshbon of this one too. Allow this one to also be. Why didn't it say there are four cases? Why are you saying there are three cases where Torah changes the rule? It doesn't just extend it, but changes from what the simple meaning of the Torah is and says it actually means something else. We're actually not like what it says. Why doesn't it say there's a fourth case? And this should prove that there is no fourth case. This should answer your question. What was your question? Can ashes count too when the Torah says earth? Well, no, it probably cannot count based on this, that you're telling me there are only three cases where Torah says one thing and we mean actually something else. There's only three cases like that, and it should have said a fourth. So my friends who are learning Gemara, listen to how we learn this, because for the first time learning this is a new way, but this is pretty standard very often in the Gemara. The Gemara says, well, you want to know why it said three? It's because there's many more cases. In other words, we're giving you three examples of cases. We're not telling you all the cases out there. We are telling you three of the cases, trying to show you not that when we say a list of three cases, we don't mean there are only three cases. Tana, he learned Vashir and he left over. He learned three cases, Vashir, and he left them over, not meaning to say that there are only three cases, but his list is a list of selected cases, but there's many cases. Well, he says, well, if you're leaving over cases, here's it, listen to the logic. If you're leaving over cases, then you wouldn't just leave over one case, you would leave over at least two cases. In other words, if there was only four cases of this manner that we changed what the Torah said, then you would have just put four in your list and said four. You wouldn't have given three examples and left one last example over, right? You would have said four examples. Your logic that the Torah only used three cases as examples would only work if there was more than four cases. If there was five cases, then it would be okay to say, let me share with you three of the five cases. But if there were four cases, you wouldn't say, here's three of the four cases available. So the question now we have is, fine, if you want to count this, our case of Sotah as the fourth case, Umay Shir, what else did he leave over? The high Shir that he left over the fourth case. In other words, if you're saying there's a fourth case, that means there has to be a fifth, because if he's only using three as examples, so then what's your fifth case where we change something that the Torah said that the oral tradition passed down and also uprooted that? So that, in other words, if you want to tell me the three righteous examples, you have to have a fifth case besides our fourth Sotah here today. Make sense to you what I just said? Was that clear? Was that explain? Yeah? Fine. So he says, I'll tell you what it is. And the Gemara is going to try to bring a case, and the Gemara is going to give three reasons why at the end of this, why this is not a good example. What's the fifth case where Torah, the oral tradition uproots a case? Oshir Mitzayra. The case is of a Mitzayra, of a leper. Okay? And it's regarding what here on the leper after the leper finishes his leprosy process. His hair has to be shaved. And the context is in what here on his body, what here? His hair, his beard, his head, his armpits, like which hair needs to be shaved by the Torah. So the Tanya we learned in a Brisa. That it was on the seventh day after the leper became clean from leprosy. Yigalech es kol sa'ara, you have to shave kol sa'ara, his whole hair. So if you look in the verse, you got it. The guy's got to shave all his hair. And klal, that's what we call. We're going to learn now what a klal uprat klal is. A klal and a prat and a klal. What we say now, the English words for this is specification and generalization. So the generalization is that all is here. It's a very general rule. The guy after 7 days, the leper, the Mitzayra, he needs to shave his hair. Shave, go to the barbershop and shave all your hair, everything. But then it says es roishai, then it gives examples. You know what he has to shave? It's going to throw us off. His head, vezakonoi, and his zuck and his beard, and his eyebrows. Well, that is a prat. Klalu prat. Prat is a specification. Okay. So I see what's going on over. You're telling me, I know I gave you a generalization, but now I'm giving you a specification that I'm giving you the specifics. I gave you a general rule, but now let me specify for you. I mean his head. I mean his I mean his head. I mean his hair and his head. I mean his beard, and I mean his eyebrows. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I could find a common denominator here between your specifications. But let's finish. Then the Torah goes and says another generalization. The es kol sari galeach, and all of his hair he should shave. Whoa. Chazer v'kolal, it went back and gave a generalization. So again, generalization, specification, generalization. Hebrew for that is called klal, uprat, uchlal. Generalization, shave all his hair. Specification, his hair head and his eyebrows and his beard. Then a generalization, that was the specifications, and then the generalization was no, shave all his body. So what do I do when the Torah does it to me? How do I learn the whole Torah? This happens constantly in the Torah. You only learn, you rule out. Ella only ke'ena prat, it means anything that's similar to the specification. So when the Torah throws that at you and does this very often, and this is the whole Torah is learned in this way, according to Rabbi Shmuel, right? Rabbi Shmuel says 13 principles the Torah is learned: generalization, specification, generalization. It means anything similar to here on your head. And in other words, if it just specified without any generalization, it would say, okay, those are the 3 cases, just the specifications. Here on the head, here on the beard, and your eyebrows. Okay, but since the Torah sands that in between 2 generalizations, it means anything that's similar to the category, the common denominator, the context of the specification. Ma, prat, mefurash, what, just like the specifications, what's unique about them? They're makoim, they're a place, kinus seyar, where the hair is collected in one place. A lot of hair there. Vinira, they're also visible. Okay, that's what's unique. That's a common denominator between the specifications, the hair on the head, the beard, and the eyebrows. Af, also, kol makoim, any place, kinus seyar, where the hair gathers, vinira, and it's seen. That is how you learn Torah, Reb Shmuel says. So, okay, so Marabi, what did he include? Where, in other words, okay, that's interesting. So you tell me a common denominator and learn anything else similar to that common denominator. Okay, what other places on our body are similar to that? Rabbi, Seir Harglaim, the hair on the feet, meaning the pubic hairs. He's saying it with a modest way. It doesn't mean the hair on your feet. He means the pubic hairs. So, because they're in one area and they're visible. If you look at a body, you could see the pubic hairs, and therefore it's similar to the common denominator. That is the rule, and that is, my friends, how you learn generalization and specification. I hope I was clear. We're going to learn soon a very interesting machlekes. Rabbi Akiva and those who hold like him do not learn the Torah in this way like Rabbi Shmuel does. When this happens, instead of using the English terms, we're going to use different English terms that sound very similar. The Hebrew terms are ribui, miut, and viboy. And the English words for that is amplification, limitation, and amplification. He says, no, I don't call this specification and generalization, specification, generalization. I'm calling this amplification, limitation, and amplification. What's the difference? The words sound the same. To amplify something and to limit something is that when you learn amplification, limitation, and amplification, you're actually the rule is including much more. In other words, right, much more of the body will need to be shaved based on this rule. We're going to go amplify the rule much more and not be specific. We'll see soon. And the only thing that will be excluded will be the hair on the nose, inside your nose. Everything else in the body will be included based on that system. But let's not mix ourselves up. Right now, we're learning generalization and specification. That is what our Gemara at the moment is learning. Okay. Oh, so 1 second. And what is he excluding from the generalization specification? That you don't need to shave miut deveis hashechi. He's excluding the armpits because it's here, although collected in one spot, is not visible. When a person's hands are usually down, you don't see the hair in his armpits, and therefore you don't have to shave that. According to Rabbi Shmuel, because it's not similar to the specifications that they're very visible, your beard here, your head here, and your eyebrows, it's hidden under your armpits. And all the rest of the parts of the body where the hair is not in one area is not included in this thing. Aha. Okay. So what do you see from here? From klal uprat to klal, from generalization, how we learn the Torah, that parts of the body are left over. You don't cut the hair, not of the legs, not other parts where the hair is not collected in one area, and not of the armpits because it's not visible. So the Torah seems to tell us clearly, using the rules of Rabbi Yishmael, the Torah is clearly telling us what? That there are parts of the body that are not shaved because they're not similar to the specifications of what were shaved. So there are parts of the Nazir, of the Nazarite that's not shaved. And then we have the oral traditions which disagrees with this, and he says, "Megalech kedlas, you shave him like a gourd, shave his whole body, everything has to come off." That's the oral tradition. Well, 1 second, you just told me the method of learning the Torah is that there are definitely parts of the body that are not collected in one area, that are not visible, that are not shaved, and now you're telling me the oral tradition comes and knocks off and disagrees with the written Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu passed on orally. I need to shave the guy like a thing. So that would be case number 5, which is the case of where the Torah again uproots something that it says clearly in the Torah. Now that would answer our question that we had before. Yes, the Sotah water is a 4th case where you can use ashes, even though it only says earth. Why did the Mishnah say there are only 3 cases which the oral tradition knocks off, uproots the written Torah? And that's because it's just 3 examples, but there is case 4 and there's another 5th case. So the Torah is just not listening to you all the cases. It's listening to you 3 examples, but really we just brought you a 5th case that comes to show you where the Torah will uproot it. And the Gemara now brings the Mishnah. The Mishnah, the oral tradition, the Mishnah, the oral tradition of the Mishnah, which talks about shaving the Nazir. When you come to shave the Mitzvah, the leper, after the time of his leprosy period, he comes to get shaved. Mavir, we pass over tar, a razor, alcohol, basari, on his whole flesh, shave him up. The katani seifa, and we learn at the end. So first it says we shave his whole body. First part of the verse says, tar, alcohol, you shave his whole body. And then the first time, because he has 2 shavings there, that's the first time you shave his whole body. Tani Seifa, and then we say at the end, Ubayoyim Ashvi, on the 7th day, Megalcha, you shave him again a 2nd time. You shave him on the 1st day, you shave him on the 7th day. Tiglach Hashniya, the 2nd shaving, the Mishnah says, Tiglachas Rishona is like the shaving of the first one. That just like the first one, everyone knows clearly that you shave his whole body. The 7th day, the 2nd shaving, you shave his whole body, and that is it. Okay, so beautiful. We have a Gemara makes sense. It's clear so far that you have case 4 of Sotah, and now you have case 5 of Nazir, besides the 3 cases originally brought in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel said that there are 5 cases. This is the 5th case, the case of the Nazirite, where the Torah says you only shave certain parts of the body, and the old tradition passes down and says, no, you shave the whole body, and uproots the simple literal meaning of the Torah. Okay, beautiful. But the Gemara says there's 3 shlag-ups, there's 3 arguments against this. That your 5th case, your case of Nazirite is not a good case to bring. And once we prove that your case 5 is not a good case to show a case where the oral tradition uproots the written tradition, now your 4th case of Sotah is in jeopardy. Because why wouldn't he have, if there's only a 4th case where the Torah has uprooted it, why would Rabbi Shmuel only have brought 3 cases? Why would he have not have brought the 4th case and just say all 4 cases? Why would he bring 3 examples of 4 cases to showcase the rule that oral tradition knocks off the written Torah? And then probably you're wrong, and this would prove that ashes cannot be used as to supplement dirt. But what are the 3 reasons that case 5 of Nazir is not a good proof to have a case scenario where the oral tradition uproots the written Torah? Why not? You just said we would learn from the Torah that only certain parts of your body need to be shaved, and the oral tradition says everything else needs to be shaved. So Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak. So first of all, Rab Nachman Yitzchak goes first. He says, "Listen, Kika Chashiv Halacha Oikeves Mikra. Kika Chashiv, which cases do we say are called in other words, the three cases that Rabbi Shmuel brought, that, listen, I want to tell you where the oral tradition knocks off the written Torah is only halacha, where a clear oral tradition, Oikeves, uproots a mikra, a clear verse in the Torah. So the Torah says one thing, and the oral tradition says, no, I'm uprooting that, and I'm saying it means something else. But the example you just gave me that you tried to bring, case number 5, well, a case of where oral tradition knocks off the Torah, a keves, that it's uprooting midrabanan, a rabbinic method of learning Torah. You needed to learn the rules of generalization, specification, and generalization, how he shaved, and then the oral tradition knocks off using a method of klal uprat to klal. But the examples that he meant that there are 3 cases which we uproot the Torah is when the Torah says something clearly and we uproot it straight out, not using the rule, the principles which the method of Torah is learned. You guys following with me? Understand what he's saying? So therefore, it's not a good example. Your case 5 of Nazir, is not a good example to learn from, because Nazir was used a klal uprat to klal method, and then your old tradition is disagreeing with that. That's reason number 1 why it's not. Papa says, I'll tell you reason number 2 now why you cannot use that as case number 5. When is he considering that it's a problem where it's halacha keves v'ikeres, where the Torah is uprooting it and getting rid of it? In other words, saying, no, you're saying it has to be one way, I'm saying it has to be a different way, the oral tradition is saying. But our case, he's not oikeves umeisefes, he's not uprooting and disagreeing with it, he's just adding, he's just saying more here of the guy needs to be cut. Oikeves umeisefes, he's adding that more here on the body needs to be cut. It's like a rabbinic, extending the law further, but not saying it's wrong. So the Torah said cut here, 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 and the oral tradition is, okay, cut a little bit more, but not disagreeing. There's long Rashi here, I don't want to go into it, but explaining the exact difference between the two. But it could be simply understood that we're just saying cut more here. We're not disagreeing the Torah says, we're just saying cut more here. And therefore, again, your case of Nazir that you have to cut more here, shave more here, is not a good example. And finally, third of all, very interesting. Rav Ashi says this is an interesting third reason. We're almost done with this shtickle Gemara. We're going to finish the topic in a few more lines. Masnisa Mani, who is the author of this Mishnah that says there are 3 cases? You want to know who it is? It's Rabbi Yishmael, the same rabbi who authored the beginning of the davening, what we say, Bishmal Leimer. The Darish, that his method of Torah learning is klali uprati uklali, generalizations and specifications. And that's why it follows his logic that he wants to say. Mani, who is our person? Kidlas, who is the person that says that you're asking you're trying to bring your whole method here, that you're bringing the point is to say a Nazirite that says you have to shave him like a leper, who is your 5th case. Hey, Mani, you want to know who he is? He is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, different rabbi, is the one who says that you shave him like a gore, like you shave all the parts of his body. And you wanted to bring this to question the case of Rabbi Shmuel, who brought the 3 cases. He completely disagrees with Rabbi Yishmael anyway. The Darish, he learns riboyu miyutei. He learns that we method of these scenarios of the hair, how much hair, whole body, the beard, the head, and the eyebrows, and then the whole body. He uses amplification and limitation. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, that it comes in the 7th day. Yigalach kol b'sarai, that the leper should shave all his body. Rabbi Akiva learns riba, that is an amplification. Es roishoy vezikonoi veskabas einov, his head, beard, and eyebrows, miyut, is a limitation. It's called sara yigalech, his whole body you should shave. Chazav riba is again an amplification. Riba umiyat v'riba, using this method of learning of amplification, limitation amplification. Riba hakol, everything is included. When you do such a way, everything is included. Ma riba, what's he including? Riba de kule gofa, is including the whole body. But ma miyut, and what did he limit? Miyut seir shabbatei chaytim, only the here in the nose, which I guess then is not, now there's no problem because the Torah is not disagreeing really with what the leper does. Because the leper the Torah says the leper shaves his whole body based on amplification and limitation, and that is exactly what the oral tradition is. He shaves his whole body. So basically, back to square one, back to our question, because you have no proof. My Havi Allah, we're left with the question. Just answer me the question: can ashes be used to in instead of earth? Yes or no? You got into this whole thing of here's a fourth case. Well, why is it included in the three? Because there's a fifth case, but now we don't like the fifth case, so now there's only four. The bottom line is, tell me the answer. My Avila, what happened? So here's going to answer the question. Now, Tashma, come and see. The Amar Rav Huna Barashi said, Amar Rav, the name of Rav. Ain Sham Offer, what do you do if there's no earth? Maybe you bring Rakbuvis Yarek, you bring rotted out vegetables, right? You bring vegetables that have become rotted, decayed vegetables. Umekadesh, you put it on the floor, whatever, in the earth, and then you sanctify it, and you use that in the potion. So Gemara says, "V'loihi, umekadesh." I'm sorry, skip the words "v'loihi." Skip these words. I think we skipped them. Let me see. Yeah, we going to Rashi. Rashi takes out these two words. So we learn from here, Rakbubis Yarek, that the decay of a vegetable. Who the havioffer? Since you brought decay of a vegetable as your replacement for earth, meaning that is considered earth, because where do vegetables come from? They come from the earth. So when they rot, they just go back to where they came from. It's a raya that afer, that ashes, loy havioffer, is not considered good enough dirt. So because when I ask you what to do when I don't have earth, you said, oh, bring decayed vegetables. That must mean that only decayed vegetables are close enough and good enough to be used as earth, but anything else is not good enough and close enough to be used as earth. And that concludes the first shtickle Gemara. The question we started off with, we have a few more smaller pieces of Gemara, but also very interesting pieces. We had to go through a whole shackle of Itaria, a back and forth, in order to get there. But the bottom line is the answer to the question. If you don't know the answer, only decayed fruit, vegetables count, but nothing else counts. I hope that was clear. We'll take questions afterwards if there are. That was the large shtickle Gemara for today. Let's go on. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned. Remember, the next part is that you put earth in the water. And what did our Mishnah say? That the earth has to be visible. It can't be completely become muddy, let's say, or not visible, not under the water. It has to be enough earth to make the potion in this potion or in the water, that you could see the earth. Tana Rabbanan, so the Chachamim learned, oh, that's interesting. Shloisha, there are three other cases, three general cases. That tzrichin, that you need, sheyero, you have to see them. That there's potions or things that are made that they have to be visible. What are they? Where other cases? Okay, yeah, you're making some potion or something which it has to be visible. Okay, well, obviously the first one we know, that's afar Sotah, the dirt of the Sotah, that when you make it, the earth in the cup, in the potion, in the water, has to be visible. Okay. The Efer Para and the ashes of the red heifer, that it also has to be visible. When you make the concoction of the red heifer, the ashes of the red heifer have to be visible in the potion that's being made. It can't be completely diluted. But right, Yavama, another interesting case, we know with the marriage, what's it called? The Yavama, what do they call it? The Levirate, the Levirate marriage, when she wants to get divorced, she does not want to marry her younger brother. What does she do? She spits on the floor by his shoe. And that spit has to be visible. So three cases, the Torah says, that it has to be visible. And Rabbi Shmuel adds a fourth. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says even a fourth case, Avdam Atzipar, also again, back to the leper, the person of the leprosy person, that when you make a special concoction after the person is concluded with their leprosy, you take a bird and you slaughter its blood of this little bird inside the water, and that water cannot be diluted. You must be visible, able to see the redness of the blood in the water that it's in. So there are three, or maybe even Rabbi Shmuel says, not just three. He says, I think there's a fourth. 3 or 4 cases, which you have to be able to see the potion that you're making. First of all, the dirt in the Sotah water. Second of all, the concoction of the ashes of the red heifer. You have to see the ashes. Third of all, the spit of the Yavama of that marriage, the levirate marriage that when she wants a divorce. And Rabbi Shmuel says even the bird that you're making for the leper, that the blood has to be visible in the water that you're putting it in. My time is Rabbi Shmuel. What are they arguing in? In other words, they're only arguing in the fourth case. Everything else was clear. Why are you arguing in the fourth case? In the case of the blood of the bird in the cup for the guy with the leper, what are they arguing and what's their basis for the debate there? My time is Rabbi Shmuel. What is Rabbi Shmuel's reason? Why does he hold that you have to see the blood? Okay, because it says in the pasuk, the tavaloisa, you have to dip into the right. They would take like a piece of cedar wood, and they had a red wool, crimson wool, or something like that. They would dip it bidam hatzipor. It says in the blood of the bird. You got to dip it in the blood of the bird, and then you would sprinkle it on the guy who had leprosy. So when you're dipping it in the blood of the bird, it means you have to see the blood in that potion that you're making there. You're making a potion. You have to see the blood that's mixed with the water. Betanya, bedam, it says in another brisa, Betanya we learned, bedam, it says dip it in the blood. Okay, yachal bedam, I would think, okay, so just take the cedar wood, whatever you have there, the piece of the stuff you're dipping, and dip it right in the blood, but not water. Why do I have to dip it in the water too? Where's there a potion made? So the verse also says, b'mayim, dip it in the water. Okay, when it says dip it in the water, I would think only dip it in water, not in blood. But then the verse also says dip it in the blood. So what should I do? Do I dip it in the blood or do I dip it in the water? One time it says dip it in the water, one time it says dip it in the blood. So what do I dip it in? Maybe mayim, you bring water, that the blood of the bird, nikarim behen, are recognizable. You can visualize the blood. So no, it's not a contradiction. Dip it in the water, dip it in the blood. But what I'm trying to tell you by saying dip in the water, dip in the blood, dip it in the water, that you could see the blood, the coloring of the water has the coloring of the blood in it. Vikama, in other words, you'll see soon, don't dilute it too much because you'll only see water, or don't dilute it too little because then you'll only see blood. So Vikama, what the right amount of water to make that revius of water, whatever it is, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, whatever the amount is, that much water is the good for these small birds that they would use, and that would have the exact right amount of, or it's more than 3 ounces, whatever, maybe 3-4 ounces, whatever it is, that would be the right amount of water to the blood that comes out of the bird. Okay, so you have a brisa, and you explain your reason very clearly why you have to make sure that the blood of the bird is still visible, because the Torah says water, dip it in the water, and the Torah says blood. So he's trying to tell you, use the right amount prescription of water to blood, so that when you dip it in, you're dipping it in the water and the blood, and that's what Torah is telling you. Remember, this was the fourth opinion, Rabbi Shmuel, who argues with the earlier opinion, who only brought 3 cases, and not this case. Rabbanan. So what will the rabbi say, the earlier rabbis before him? No name, it's the Rabbanan, it's general, the Chachamim. Why don't they not agree? So he says, Ahula Gufe, it's not extra, it's just coming to tell you to make the concoction, mix the potion together. It's not coming to tell you how much water, that it's nothing to do with telling you how much you should be able to visualize the blood in the water. He's just trying to tell you, make a concoction with blood and water and dip it in. That's it. He's not coming to tell you the prescription of how much water and how much blood. He's trying to tell you, dip it in something that has water and blood. Where did the Rabbi Shmuel get it from? That he's trying to tell you how much to mix. He's just telling you, put it together and dip it in. That this is what the Rachmana, the Torah, is telling us. Dip it in blood and water. That's it. He said it. He gets from it that has to be recognized. But I'm just saying, the Torah is just telling you, put it in a mixture of the two. Rabbi Shmuel, so how is Rabbi Shmuel going to say this was a proof to him when we're saying we needed just to tell you to put it in the mixture of them? How does he know that you should see both? Rabbi Shmuel says, listen, Imkain, if so, that the Torah was just trying to tell you to dip it in the mixture, the Torah just what it should have said, dip it in them, because you already discussed in the verse earlier the blood and water mixture. So just say dip it in them. Why does the Torah add the words dip it badamu b'mayim, dip it in the blood and in the water? Lamali, why does it tell me dip it in the blood and dip it in the water? The nikar to tell you that it has to be recognizable. I want you to dip it in the water and the blood, meaning see the blood in the water when you dip it in, and that's why the Torah repeats itself, because it could have just said dip it in them in the potion I told you to make earlier, but it says dip it in the blood and the water, meaning see the blood in the water. Okay, v'rabbanan, and what about the rabbis? So it says dip it in the blood and the water, meaning that it has to be recognizable. Had the Torah just written, as you're saying, dip it in them, in the above mentioned potion, the water and the blood that we spoke about, I would have thought, in other words, earlier in the verse, it just spoke about get water from here and get blood from here. But whoever said they have to be mixed together, and then if it would have said dip it, I would have just said, dip it in them, in the blood you told me to get, and the water you told me to get, but you never told me to mix them together as a potion. So Kasav Rachmana, that's why the rabbi is saying, it says dip it in the blood and the water, La'arvan, to tell you need to mix them together. So it's saying dip it in the blood and the water, meaning mix them together. I know I told you to bring blood, I know I told you to bring water, but when did I ever tell you to mix them together? It could have been dip it in the blood, dip it in the water, and that's it. I said dip it in them, maybe one in one cup, one in the next cup. So it says dip it in the blood and the water, meaning mix it together. So now Rabbi Shmuel's back on him a question. How do you know it means that they have to be recognizable? Maybe it's just coming to tell us that they should be mixed together. Shmuel Arvon, to tell you need to mix them. There's a different verse over there that tells us to mix it together. And what is the verse? It says V'shachat asatzipor ha'achas, shech, one of the birds. 1 second. V'shachat asatzipor ha'achas, and that verse tells us that you shech the bird into the water. God, I thought I had the end of the pasuk here. El klicheres al mayim chayim. It says over there, it says el shech the one bird. It's not bringing you the whole verse. V'gomer means the end of the verse is into the earthenware vessel, onto the water. So it says another verse that says into the earthenware vessel on the water, meaning the blood should be shechted. When you shech the bird, have the blood go into the water that's in the earthenware vessel, which means it goes into it. Whoa! So now we have a question back on the Rabbanan and the Chachamim. The Chachamim said it never told us it needs to be mixed. That's what it's telling us to hear. So why don't the rabbis already notice from that verse where it said slaughter the bird and put its blood in the potion that it's mixed together? If it's from that verse that enough proof that it means you should mix it, Havamina, I would have thought, if you read it literally, it says, slaughter the bird next to the water. The little words over there is, slaughter the bird next to the water, but it doesn't say put it in, v'niktinu, the vradin, and then hold the veins of the bird, v'niktinu, grab and hold the nerve, the vradin, the veins of the bird, the kabbaladam b'manachina, and then put the blood in another cup. So in other words, the literal words are slaughter the birds next to the water, not put it in the water. So Kamash Malan, that's why according to him, you need this verse here to say slaughter and put the blood and the water together. And that's a debate between Rabbi Yishmael and the other Chachamim. They debate if it was clear or not. And according to Rabbi Yishmael, it was already clear that it needs to be a mixed potion. And therefore, our current verse that we're discussing here is telling us the amount of prescription, the prescribed amount of water to blood, that it should be visible. And according to the Chachamim, it's not clear. It's just telling you that you need to mix it together, but not how clear it has to be. And therefore, they disagree about this case, but they all agree about the first 3 cases that the Torah's potion that they're making in the other 3 cases that it has to be recognizable in the potion. Now, just to finish this topic of how much water to Rabbi Shmuel said, the Torah is telling you the prescription of how much water to how much blood. But he asks an interesting, simple question, which you can have all the time. What happens if it's a bigger bird? Very nice. You're telling me there has to be 3-4 ounces of water, a revius of water. But what happens if it's a bigger bird? There's a lot more blood there. How could you make a prescription for something that there's no, every bird's a different size? Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question from Rabbi Zera. If it's a bigger bird, it's going to overwhelm the water. All you're going to see is going to look like blood. Titano, if it's a small bird, the blood itself is going to be completely diluted in the water. Mahu, what's the halacha? What should you do? How much water over there? Right? So he asked the question. So he says back to him, right? You can ask this question really anywhere. He says, Amar Lei. So he says, Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Zeir. Rabbi Zeir says back to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Lava Minalach, didn't I not already tell you? Lei Seipuk Nafshach Levar Mihilchasa, don't take yourself away to be a student of outside the frame of halacha. Don't go out of halacha. Don't ask these questions of discuss just the halacha. Don't ask these questions of what if this bird comes who's bigger, what if the bird comes who's smaller. Don't, in other words, Torah has to follow some rule and regulation, Okay, you could always ask, what if something unusual, much bigger comes, something much smaller? There's got to be a rule, and there's got to be a measurement, and you have to stick by the measurement that it is. The rabbis came up with a measurement. Okay, you're going to find a bigger bird. What? It can't go to every case, I guess, I think that's what I understood, and start saying, what if it's, no, they're just giving you a general rule, and you follow the general rule. But then he says, B'tzipor derar shir rabbanan. The rabbis were talking about these small birds that they use for the Mitzvah, which are called a bird. It's called a tzipor. Tzipor means a bird. Drar means either like a free flying bird. There's the little birds that they're free flying that even in when they're captured, they still can fly. Big birds, they need a lot of room to fly. We're talking about certain kind of birds that are little birds, and therefore it doesn't really. In other words, the size is not that much of a difference. The bird that's used for the Mitzvah, for the leper potion, is really one standard, more or less, size of a small bird. None of those birds will be too big. That the blood will overwhelm the water, that it'll look like blood. There will be no little tiny bird which will be overwhelmed by the water, which will be completely diluted in the water. So that's his answer, is that the birds are more or less the same size, and therefore there will not be an issue with the prescribed amount of water to blood, because the more or less the birds are small and that fit into the revius, into the 4 ounces, whatever it is, of water that's there to make the right concoction to see blood and see water in there. Okay, good. We're going on. We're talking about all possibilities that can happen in this potion that's being made. Now, let's talk about what goes first, the earth or the water. And what happens? We know that the water goes first and then the earth. But what happens if, God forbid, you make the potion wrong and you put the earth in before the water? Does that cancel out the potion? The rabbis learned. Hikdim, if they first offer the earth, lamayim before the water, hustle, the Tanakama says, no good. No good. You can't do it in the right order. Do for the Sotah, the sacrifice, whatever, at least the potion, everything needs to be done according to the order. Rabbi Shimon says, what does Rabbi Shimon say? Machshir, he says it's kosher, it's okay, you don't mess up the potion by putting in the earth first, it's still good. My time is Rabbi Shimon. What again? What are they arguing in? Why do they argue if the earth goes first or then? Where does it come from, the debate? Rabbi Shimon, my time, Rabbi Shimon. What's Rabbi Shimon's reasoning that you could go either way to exceed? What does it say in the verses? You take for the impure person, from the earth for the paraduma guy, the person who is purifying himself from the potion that's made for the guy who was near a dead body, who needs to be sprinkled with the red heifer. It says you take from the afar, from the dirt. Now we know what's the right word to be used here. Afer, ashes of the red heifer. But here it says uses the wrong word. It says the dirt. Of the burnt of the sin offering of the red heifer that you could use. It says you use the earth that's made from the red heifer, which really is supposed to be ashes. The Tanya, we learned in another brayso. Rabbi Shimon says, who is it? Earth that's used to make the red heifer concoction. But like who? It's really ashes that's used to make the red heifer concoction. It's ashes because you burn the red heifer and you use those ashes, not earth. So Shina HaKasav, why did the Torah change and say earth instead of ashes when the right terminology is the ashes? The Mashmai Laduni Menu, it's coming to use a offer dirt because it wants you to learn something out of it, to make a Gzeira Shava. A Gzeira Shava means, we had this already in our class, where two words are similar, identical to each other, we learn one from another. Nemar kan offer. It says over here, by the case of the Sotah. Says offer, you take the dirt of the Mishkan, right? You take the dirt. And it says over there by the red heifer, it says the word offer. Now that it changed, instead of using a for ashes, it says offer, it says dirt. Now we can have two identical words so that we can compare the red heifer potion to the potion of the Sotah. Just like over there, offer agabi mayim. What do we learn from the fact that it's similar? That just like over there, it has to be earth on top of water regarding the what's it called, the red heifer. It has to be earth on top of water. So to here it has to be earth on top of water. Afkan offer agabi mayim. So to here it has to be earth on top of water. Oh, makan hiktim offer lamayim. I'm sorry, just like the red heifer, it's on top. So to here, makan hiktim offer lamayim. Just like here, he said that in our case of Sotah, earth, water, earth goes before water. Offer lamayim. I'm sorry, afkan offer agabi mayim. Makan hiktim offer lamayim kosher. Just like by the red heifer, if you did put by mistake earth before the water, it'll be kosher. So too, if you put earth before the water, kosher, it will still be kosher. So, in other words, really here, you're supposed to put the water before the earth. That's the right way. That's the order it says in the verse here. But just like over there, if you change and you put earth before the water incorrectly, it's still kosher. The same rules and regulations will apply here to the Sotah, that even if you change the rules, it'll be okay. And that's why the Torah uses the word offer by the red heifer. So you should compare it that just like there, a mess up in the order, mess it up, so to here too. So the Gemara says, well, how over there in the red heifer case do we know that a mess up, a change is okay? How do you know that there? Let's look over there. We're almost done. 5 more lines. Steve, Allah. Over there it says you put the water, I believe is the wording there, on it. You put the water on the earth. So Alma, we see from the fact that it says put the water on it on the earth. For Bereisha is in one hand the verse implies that the earth comes first, and you put the water on it. Uksiv, and then another verse says Mayim Chaim El Keli, put the water, the live spring water, El Keli, right into the vessel, meaning not on the earth, right into the vessel. Alma Mayim Bereisha, meaning we see that water goes first. So Haketzad, on one hand you said earth is first, the other hand on one hand you're saying the water goes on top of the earth, and the other hand you're saying the water goes right into the vessel, not on the earth. Haketzad, how is it? They're trying to tell you that by the red heifer, Ratzazanoisi means to say, if you want, put this one in first. If you want, put that one in first. That's why the two psukim contradict each other. On one hand, it says the water goes straight into the vessel. On the other hand, it says the water goes on top of the earth. Why? Make up your mind. Oh, no worries, because neither of them are. Why does it contradict himself to tell you that neither of them are important? And then we learn out from the red heifer to our case that just like there, neither ones are important by us too, even though the verse says only one way, water first, then dirt. But it's telling you that just like by the red heifer, it's okay to go either way here too, even if you didn't follow the order of the recipe, it's still okay. Okay, Rabbanon, and what about the rabbis? Why don't they? What are they going to say? The rabbis didn't agree with this. They said, no, it has to be in order. So the Gemara says, so is the rabbis say, listen, it says by the red heifer, El Keli. It says you put the water into the vessel. And it means dafka, El Keli dafka. It says, put the water into the vessel, meaning put the water into the vessel. Put the water into the vessel. That's how it has to be done. Wait a second, but didn't the verse also say, the other words say, put the water olive on it, on the dirt. So he says, so how are they going to answer the contradiction? No, we agree that when it says into the vessel, that's literal. When it says on it, la'arvan, it means to mix it together. It means when it says put the water on it, that's after you put the earth into the water, or put the water on it, meaning not on it, but in it together, mix it together. Well, how do you know to take the word that they put the water into the vessel literally and then change the other word around? The ema olav dafka, maybe when it says put the water on the earth, on it, that's literally. And then when it says El Keli, put the water into the vessel, It means that the water that goes into the vessel means don't put any other vessels in between, but put the spring water straight into this vessel without any other cups in between. Sticking a cup into the spring water, pouring it in, it has to go straight from the spring water into the vessel. Maybe that's the meaning of it. How do you know which word to read literally and which word to use it to have a different meaning to it? He says because that's the way to read Torah, like we see in every other case where these potions are made. How so? The Mamatzinu, just like we find b'chol makom in every place, that machshir l'mayla, that the last component goes on top, the last one that certifies, that completes, that creates the potion is the one going in last. That's how it is. Afkan here too, machshir l'mayla. What is the last step that takes place that creates the kosherness, meaning the completion of the potion is the putting the earth in. So of course the earth goes in last after the water is already in, because that is what completes. The earth is what completes the potion, and therefore the earth will go in last on top of the water that's there. And that, my friends, is the end of the very interesting Gemara that we learned. Maybe I could do a quick review. I'll do it after. After I'll shut the recording, and then we'll do a chazara